They will miss you badly even if they are the ones that left you. Not because you begged, not because you chased, but because you did something far more powerful. You stopped. You turned inward. You chose stillness over reaction. You chose to rebuild instead of reach. And in that silence, in that quiet return to yourself, something shifted. You stopped trying to prove your worth and began to live it. You let go, not to forget them, but to remember yourself. What I'll share with you today isn't about games, manipulation, or desperate hope. It's about becoming the kind of man whose absence echoes, because his presence was never born out of need, but of depth. Even if your situation feels impossible, especially if it does, this path works, not because it forces them to miss you, but because it invites you to rise into a version of yourself that cannot be ignored. So before we begin, I want you to anchor this truth. It is possible. Say it aloud or write it below. They will miss me badly, not someday. Now, and if this resonates with where you are in life, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Stoic Station, a space for men who rise through reflection, rebuild through discipline, and reclaim their power without noise. Let's begin. First, stop all pursuing. Be still to reclaim your power. When someone leaves, the ache to be seen again, to remind them you exist, can feel overwhelming. You reach for your phone, check their social media, wonder what they're doing, who they're with, and whether they still think of you. But here's the truth most men come to only after deep emotional wear. The more you reach, the more they retreat. Each text, each view on her story, each attempt to accidentally cross paths whispers the same silent message to her and to yourself. I don't have her. I need her back to feel whole. That energy is never attractive. It's rooted in lack. But when you stop pursuing, something shifts. You stop begging the world to validate your worth and instead turn inward. You take long walks without your phone. You journal what you truly feel. You go 48 hours without checking her page, not to play a game, but because you are reclaiming your peace. You're coming home to yourself. This stillness isn't surrender, it's self-respect. It says, I am no longer available for one-sided love. And that shift, quiet, powerful, grounded, is often the very thing that makes her feel your absence and begin to miss your presence. Second, shift the focus back to you. Rebuild the life that makes you magnetic. When someone leaves, it's easy to fall into the trap of trying to win them back, playing mental chess, analyzing every word, every silence, wondering what move might bring them closer again. But in doing so, you often abandon the one person who needs you the most, yourself. If all your energy is being poured into getting her attention, you've lost touch with the deeper truth, that your life was never meant to revolve around her. You were never meant to orbit someone else's presence. You were meant to shine on your own. After heartbreak, many men dim their light without even realizing it. They stop doing the things that once made them feel alive. They pause the hobbies, ignore their friendships, delay their goals, all in the name of trying to fix something that's no longer theirs to control. But your power isn't found in waiting. It's found in movement, in momentum, in the quiet rebuilding of a life so rich, so fulfilling, that whether she's in it or not becomes irrelevant to your peace. Pick up that project you left half finished. Reach out to a friend you haven't laughed with in months. Book that trip you always talked about, not to escape, but to reclaim the parts of you that got buried beneath the relationship. And if you need a starting point, create a reclaim list. 20 things you once loved before she ever entered the picture. Do one every week. Slowly, steadily, you'll feel your sense of self returning. The laughter will come back, the spark, the quiet confidence of a man who doesn't chase, but attracts. This isn't about proving anything. It's about returning to who you were before you forgot how magnetic you've always been. Because the truth is, the more fully you come alive without her, the more undeniable your presence becomes. And from that distance, she just might begin to wonder how she ever walked away from a life that glows this brightly. 3. Change the inner narrative. Rewire the story you're telling yourself. After she walks away, your mind can become the cruelest storyteller. It whispers things in the quiet moments. She never really loved me. She's already with someone better. I'll never feel that connection again. These thoughts don't come from truth. They come from pain. And the more you rehearse them, the more they shape your reality, not just emotionally, but energetically. They don't just hurt. They hold you hostage in a version of yourself that was built through rejection, not truth. You see, every man carries a story about his worth, and in moments of loss, that story often collapses. But here's what matters most. Just because she left doesn't mean you're forgettable. Just because she moved on doesn't mean you're replaceable. And just because it ended doesn't mean it was meaningless. What you gave, who you were, the moments you shared, they meant something. But now it's time to stop defining yourself by someone else's decision and start choosing a narrative that reflects your actual value. So shift the story. Not with naive optimism, but with grounded power. Start telling yourself what's equally true, but far more liberating. Say it until your nervous system begins to believe it. She might have walked away, but I still carry a presence that stays with people. Or, she may not realize what she lost yet, but she will. These aren't affirmations to win her back. They're declarations to bring yourself forward. You have to understand, everyone has the right to change their mind. That includes her. One day, she may wake up with a memory of your laugh, your strength, your calm presence, and it will shake her. But before that can happen, you must change the story you're telling about yourself. Because if you keep believing you were never enough, that belief will bleed into everything you touch, your work, your relationships, your self-image. Rewrite your narrative like your life depends on it, because emotionally, it does. Stand in the truth of what you brought to the table. Speak to yourself like you would speak to a man you admire. Let your inner world be the place where love begins again, not from her, but from you. The story you tell yourself becomes the one the world responds to. Make it strong, make it noble, make it unforgettable. And in time, others, maybe even her, will feel it too. 4. Heal and fall in love with yourself. Become the version of you that attracts, not chases. There is a version of you, quiet, grounded, magnetic, that doesn't need to prove his worth to anyone. He doesn't check his phone every hour hoping for a message that won't come. He doesn't replay every conversation, wondering what he should have said differently. He doesn't beg for clarity or chase after closure. Because he understands something deeper now, that real power isn't found in needing to be chosen. It's found in choosing yourself. That version of you already exists. He's not waiting to be built. He's waiting to be uncovered. And the way to uncover him isn't through pretending everything's okay or repeating affirmations you don't believe. It's through healing, the slow, unglamorous, deeply transformative kind. Healing that makes you sit with your discomfort, that asks you to cry without rushing to fix it, that invites you to breathe through the loneliness instead of running from it. Healing that leads you to look at the parts of yourself you used to avoid and love them anyway. And when you begin that journey, everything starts to shift. You start waking up with intention. You begin eating better, moving your body not to impress others, but to respect yourself. You stop criticizing your reflection and start speaking to yourself like someone worth protecting. You don't chase love. You embody it. You don't force connection. You allow alignment. You begin to trust that what left you wasn't meant to stay, and what's meant for you is already making its way toward you. you learn to live by 3 simple truths. 1. Don't force, because anything worth having flows. It doesn't cling. Healing begins the moment you stop trying to control outcomes. For years, he believed effort could fix anything, that if he just tried harder, loved more, stayed available, she'd come around. But love isn't a contract you can negotiate through desperation. It's a current, and when you cling, you stop swimming. You drown in resistance. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop gripping the illusion that you can hold together what was already unraveling. It's in that surrender that clarity begins, and in that clarity, dignity returns. 2. Allow. Because when you stop interfering, the right things have space to find you. Once he stopped chasing, something surprising happened. Life began to breathe again. Opportunities showed up. New conversations felt lighter. He stopped scanning every room for a familiar face and started seeing the world again. It wasn't overnight, but gradually peace replaced panic. His time alone no longer felt empty. It felt sacred. Instead of filling the silence with noise, he learned to hear his own voice. And in doing so, he found something better than attention. He found alignment. He allowed new energy in. He allowed space for the unfamiliar, the honest, the aligned. 3. Trust, because the universe is not against you. It's shaping you. He used to curse the timing, wondered why it had to fall apart right when things finally seemed to click. But trust rewired that anger into understanding. The breakup wasn't punishment. It was pruning, removing what wasn't sustainable so he could grow into someone deeper, stronger, more grounded. Trust meant believing that just because he couldn't see the full picture didn't mean it wasn't being painted. When you trust, you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What's next?" He learned that faith isn't passive. It's a powerful act of participation in your own becoming. A new turning point. The unexpected encounter. One rainy Sunday afternoon, months after she left, he walked into a bookstore he used to avoid. Too many memories tied to her laughter in those aisles. But today felt different. He was calmer, fuller. He reached for a book on emotional discipline, something he would have never touched in his old life. And there she was. Not across the room, not dramatically framed by nostalgia, just there, browsing. She looked up, startled. A half smile, a quiet hello. But what shook her wasn't the reunion. It was him. The silence in his eyes, the warmth without attachment. The man who once begged for her presence, now radiated from within. And she felt it. Not just his absence, but the weight of his presence, without needing her to feel whole. That is what true healing does. It doesn't erase the past. It simply makes you so full, so calm, and so real, that even those who once walked away feel the pull again, not because you need them, but because you've become someone unforgettable. I've lived through it. The quiet heartbreak of watching someone pull away, and the even louder ache of trying to hold on when your soul knows it's time to let go. At some point, I realized that chasing someone who's already chosen distance isn't love. It's abandonment of self. And no one, not even the one you once thought was your everything, is worth losing yourself for. What struck me most when reflecting on all 4 insights is this. Heartbreak doesn't have to be the end of you. It can be the beginning, if you let it. When you stop all pursuing, it's not about giving up on love. It's about giving up on the idea that love should come at the cost of your dignity. When you shift the focus back to yourself, you remember that your life isn't a waiting room for someone to return. It's a canvas, unfinished, alive, and fully yours to paint. Changing the inner narrative is perhaps the most powerful act of all. The stories we tell ourselves shape our futures. And if the old story was one of not being enough, then every step forward must begin with rewriting that script. Not because it makes them come back, but because it finally brings you back. And healing? That's where the real transformation lives. The version of you that doesn't chase, that doesn't beg, that simply radiates presence and peace. That version already lives inside you. Healing isn't about proving your worth. It's about remembering it. In today's world, where validation is a swipe away and silence feels unbearable, the temptation to chase what left is louder than ever. But let me say this plainly. If someone can walk away from your presence, let them, and then turn inward, rebuild, rewrite, realign. Because the person they may eventually miss is not the version of you that begged to be seen. It's the version of you who rose quietly in the background, who chose stillness over desperation, growth over approval, and self-respect over emotional bargaining. So my advice, don't wait to be chosen. Choose yourself, fully, fearlessly, and consistently. That's how you become unforgettable. That's how you make them miss you, even if they were the one who left. If something inside you stirred today, if even one sentence reached a quiet place in your heart that's been waiting, then don't ignore it. This might not be just another message. This could be your moment to stop chasing what was never yours to begin with, and to start reclaiming what was always meant for you. You. There comes a time in every man's life when he gets tired of performing, tired of pretending, tired of trying to earn a seat at tables he was never meant to sit at. And in that moment, he begins to remember who he is, what he carries, and how enough he already is, without applause, without validation, without noise. You don't need to prove your worth just to be missed. You don't have to force connection just to be remembered, because the truth is, the man you're becoming, the quiet one, the present one, the one who's learning to heal, he is unforgettable. Let them feel your absence. Let them sit in the silence you leave behind. Let them wrestle with how they overlooked the man who now stands so grounded, so still, so sure. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Let your energy speak louder than your effort. Let your presence speak louder than your pain. Let your peace be the loudest voice in the room. And if this stirred something in you, if you felt seen or heard or just a little more understood, then don't keep walking alone like this video. Subscribe to Stoic Station, a place where men rise not through noise but through stillness, where strength is rebuilt through discipline, not distraction, and where value is not earned but remembered. This is your journey, brother, yours alone. But you don't have to rush, you don't have to fight to be found. Walk it slowly, walk it with dignity, and above all else, never forget this. Real power doesn't chase, it becomes.